I will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education, which was duly noticed November 21st, 2017 through the posting and notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 1984. And from Edison Middle School, Melvin Garcia. Welcome, Melvin. Melvin, you have family here with you tonight? Okay.
Kind of busy.
Just a second. All right, young man, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, Melvin. Who's your favorite principal? Oh, of course.
All right. You said with enthusiasm, too. All right, here we go. 1, 2. All right.
Whoa.
Guys, what color your office is painted? He's not supposed to know.
Thank you. Consider approval of November 28th, 2017 Board of Education agenda. Need a motion and
So moved.
Second.
motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes 8-0. Commissioner Ardrey is absent tonight. Mr. Millard, you have a guest today.
Well, yes, I do, man. This one. There we go. Yes, I do. Buck Buchanan from the Highway Department is going to give us some safety tips for the winter. Or should I say the upcoming winter?
Thank you. There's a lot you know right now that I'm a product of Craig, class of 78. So. I'm still here. I work for the Rock County Highway Department, and Jim asked me to come down and give you a little speech on safety around plow trucks. I couldn't get the truck in the door. I really wanted to show you what we could have, but so anyhow, just some of the safety things that you can think about this winter when you're out driving, and you can warn other people. Number one, and these are things that I went through with the guys that I work with. This isn't out of any book or anything. This is what they told me the last several days. Number one, stay off your cell phones. Avoid other distractions like the radio, food, newspaper, makeup, or your unruly kids. It just takes a second, and something can happen. Number two would be stay away from the plow trucks. There are laws on this too, as far as tailgating and giving the trucks room to do their job. Plow trucks can stop, turn, back up, change lanes without any warning. So you just don't tailgate. There's a law also you might be aware of that says move over or slow down for emergency or maintenance vehicles. And that is very important, even to the police and the sheriffs and everybody out there. They get really nervous when people go flying by. Number three, see and be seen. Turn on your headlights. Clean the snow off all your lights, headlights, taillights, your windows, and your mirrors. We've had accidents where people have just rubbed a little bit on their windshield and they couldn't see and they slammed into our truck and got seriously injured. Have some patience. Give the plows time to do their job. Check the weather forecast. Leave earlier than you normally do. Or if the weather is extremely severe conditions, stay home. Is your life worth a lottery ticket or a latte? Just a little note here, Rock County Public Works has not closed a road due to ice or snow in many, many years. All the ones that we do, we keep them open. Somehow, I don't know how, but it happens. The plow truck drivers follow the management's instructions. When to plow, where to go, how long to plow, and what materials we use. We use salt, sand, a mix of that, brine, or nothing at all. And it depends on the conditions like temperature and wind, sunlight. So another thing the drivers are instructed is by management is don't depend on us to get you out if you're stuck or if you're broke down. We're really not allowed to do that. Sometimes we cheat on it, and in an extreme case, we will do that. But you're best off calling 911. They even if they're not going to come and get you right away, they keep a log of what's going on. So if they have to send somebody, they know ahead of time. So it's just common sense. Be patient. Have common sense. We'll try to do our job if you let us. Another thing they said, probably a comment. I don't even know what you guys have even considered making driver's ed accredited course again. We don't think that the driving schools are doing a very good job. There's not much common sense being taught. So if little Susie, she can speak Chinese and she can land a perfect landing off of uneven bars, doesn't do you much good if your head's sticking through the windshield of a Lexus. So I know that's kind of extreme, but it's something to think about. I did driver's ed back in '78, and I learned a lot, things I still use. And so I really wish you'd reconsider putting driver's ed back in as a accredited course. Thank you. Be safe.
Thank you very much.
Citizen comments. Anybody wish to address the board on any topic or issue? There's still time. All right, we have none. So next, from the Rock University High School, Xavier Breaker. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Xavier Breaker. I am a sophomore at Rock University High School. I was a previous member at Parker High School, but I joined Rock University High School for better opportunities, better learning opportunities, and a better environment to help me learn. Rock University High School is a very welcoming place for anybody who is willing to join. We currently have 50 students, and we have 8 ready to enroll for second semester. Rock University is a very welcoming school for everybody who is wanting to join. Over the Thanksgiving holiday break, a senior, Jonathan Maraki, traveled to Japan to represent RUHS as the youth advocate. The purpose of the trip was to work for other advocates from the USA, Japan, and Russia to plan this year's Critical Issues Forum themes and events from the Critical Issues Forum. It has been researched for the whole year. Researching the science behind nuclear war and energy to prepare from this year's forum in March. Things we're looking forward to in upcoming events: 10 RUHS students have volunteered to run a face painting booth at Blackhawk Technical College Winter Carnival Games on Saturday, December 9th from 12 to 3 p.m. We are working with Rubina Jan and from Multicultural Alliance Group at BTC. This is a family event and all ages are welcome and most likely we're inviting you. Just in case you need any ideas for gifts, you still have time to purchase candles and others gifts through our Yankee Candle fundraiser. 40% of sales are off through RUHS. It will be given to the school and used for students' social events like prom, graduation, and field trips. Check out RUHS on Facebook for the link to get some gifts for this holiday season. Thank you to the board for your time, and thank you for the ongoing support of Rock University High School.
Thanks, Xavier. Xavier, why don't you introduce your guests that you have tonight for us, please?
I have my father, Abe Breaker, and my 2 teachers that have been very highly on supporting me, Angela Kerr and Miss Peterson.
Thank you very much. Next, from Tagos, Sable Hendrickson. Hi, Sable.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How
Good.
are you? Good evening. My name is Sable Hendrickson, and I am a senior at Tagos Leadership Academy. I've spoken here before, back when I was a new student at Tagos. I came to Tagos my freshman year of high school after my family had decided to move again. I say again like that because we move a lot. I don't exactly know the number, but I've been to more than a handful of schools. I came to Tagos looking for something different. I was bullied in traditional school, I wasn't popular, and my grades were on a never-ending downward spiral. It wasn't because I was in trouble, and it wasn't because I wanted an easier alternative. I was a good kid, I promise. Teachers would always talk about how much potential I had. At Tagos, I feel as though I am living up to my potential with all the new experiences and learning opportunities they have to offer. For those of you that don't know, Tagos Leadership Academy is a project-based school, which means students have a lot of voice and choice in what we learn and how we show what we know. Project-based learning prepares students for work in a 21st century environment, empowering us to take initiative and responsibility for our learning. My most memorable project will probably always be my first. I did a project on depression, which I had been diagnosed to just prior to coming to Tagos, and I wanted to learn more about what exactly I was dealing with. I wrote a research paper, had a live resource, and made a decent PowerPoint considering I had never really done a project like that before. I just remember when I was writing out my essential questions, I used things I wanted to know about myself. More recently, I've started a project on mass incarceration in the United States. I am working on my initial research, listening to inmate interviews, and some really interesting TED Talks. One of the things I am most proud of is my internship at the Janesville Performing Arts Center with the executive director, Nathan Burkhart. I have been interning there since last year and have been learning about how grants are written, and I have also become very good at filing paperwork. In addition to our individual projects, we also participate in teacher-led projects, seminars, and experience days. Most students at Tagos are currently participating in Community Action's Personal Responsibility Education program, learning about decision-making, healthy relationships, abstinence, and safer sex practices. Next week, students will head to Madison to hear oral arguments before the Supreme Court and meet with a Supreme Court justice. Tagos staff are continuing to explore ways for students to earn college credit while in high school. Our Dean of Students, Stephanie Davis, is currently teaching an advanced standing oral communications course and will be teaching written communications next semester. Next week, Kim Helgestad will be attending a College Board AP Psychology conference and is planning on offering AP Psych next year. 7 students will be participating in youth options in the spring semester. Additionally, 10 students at Tagos have completed or are in the process of completing their FAFSA, and 3 students have submitted applications to UW colleges. I am proud to say that I have recently completed my own application to UW Whitewater. To close, I would like to invite all board members to visit Tagos Leadership Academy to see how other students and myself are taking ownership for our education. Thank you for giving me time to speak to you tonight about my school. I hope you enjoyed learning about Tagos half as much as I enjoy attending it. Thank you.
Nice. Wait a minute, Sable. Would you like to introduce your guests that are here tonight,
Okay.
please?
Start with my mom and my dad, Rick and Renee Joyner, my advisor, Kimberly Helgestad, and 2 of my friends from school, Ethan Thompson and Armani Cancel.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. All those guests that just spoke, you're not obligated to stay, but you're more than welcome to stay. But feel free if you need to go home and do some homework, or you won't upset us doing that. Thank you very much. Next item, consider approval of a consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Malkin, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that passes 8-0. Superintendents Report.
Good evening, Commissioners. In the spirit of continuing to share good news about awesome programs that are going on in the district, I've invited Bob Getka from Parker High School tonight, and he's going to introduce some students that he has brought with him to talk a bit about the robotics program that's going on at Parker, but really about district programming in addition that really leads up to the kind of culminating experiences that our kids are having in our high schools. And so without further ado, let me turn the stage over to Bob, and I'll let him introduce our student guests, and they're going to share some interesting stuff with us. So, Bob.
So first thing I would like to say thank you. The support I get, other teachers just don't have in other places here in the state of Wisconsin. So what they hear me say from the school board, from our downtown administration, and from our school administration, other teachers just don't have, and that's one of the reasons why we've been able to build this program to the point of where it is right now. So really heartfelt thanks. Our programming competition season is well underway. The Milwaukee School of Programming competition just finished this past Friday. So we took 2 busloads of kids from both Parker and Craig, and Parker's team ended up in the top 10 this year with 60 teams participating. So that's the first thing we just finished. Our next thing that I would like to introduce here, we have our Zero Robotics programming, and the kids will tell you what that's all about. So with us today are our Zero Robotics programming team of Roger Bradley, Saul Brodkey, Ray Bizot, Bailey Demler, and Jacob Petter. I'll let the kids take it.
All right, let's get the PowerPoint going. Slideshow from the beginning. Hi, I'm Saul Brodkey. I'm with Ray Bizat, Roger Bradley, Bailey Demler, and Jacob Petter, and we're going to introduce you to Zero Robotics.
All right. So, what is Zero Robotics? It is an international competition that is sponsored by both MIT and NASA that is challenging students from high schools internationally to challenge themselves in the computer sciences, physical sciences like physics and mathematics. And we've been competing since September, and we've made it all the way through to the final stage, the Alliance stage in December. The final submission day is this Friday, so we've been working up to that date. So, okay, moving on.
All right. So as it was mentioned, Zero Robotics is an international competition, but zooming in on North America, we can see all the teams which are currently registered from our continent. It is important to note that we are currently the #1 team in the Midwest, and we are one of the only teams which remains in the region.
So the game initially started out in a 2-dimensional playing field, so we could either just move along a grid, just XY axis, and move along. What we had to do is look for spots and collect rocks from the spots, and then take those and return back to the middle, so the rocks could be analyzed to score points. So with that, we would just have to collect a rock to get 1 point, and as long as we achieve that, we would move on to the next phase.
Our code at the moment features 124 lines of code. We do have to keep it pretty compact because if we do make it to the MIT, which is the final stretch, our code gets sent to the International Space Station. So you have to keep it kind of compact for the transfer. But this is a little snapshot of it. We're going to be submitting this Friday.
So after that, we moved on to the 3D competition. Now this is head-to-head competition internationally against teams from Poland, Italy, Czechoslovakia, Japan, Australia. Now it's 3D. You have to go down to the surface level to collect the rocks, and then you have to go back up into the main base to get more points. Now, in order to move on to the next stage, you have to finish in the top 84 teams in the world. So, how do we minimize that? Can you hit escape? So here we have a little simulation from one of our actual matches. Can you scroll up a bit? And put in to speed. So we're the red sphere here, and we're both racing down to the surface level to go collect the rocks. and soon we'll begin rotating to begin the drill. And now our strategy is slightly different. The main strategy is to drill 5 times, go back up, go back down, drill 5 times. Our strategy, we want to beat them to the base because we have an ace up our sleeve, per se. We beat them to the base because we only drill 3 times. We get 13.5 points. Then, we block them from entering the base. So they're stuck at 9 points. We have 13.5, and there's nothing they can do about it. Now, on the last day of competition, we went from 82nd place to 54th. Just with that strategy. No one expected it, and almost every team now is using it in the next competition alliance stage. So as we can see, he just tries to get around us, he can't, and he runs out of fuel and falls into the vacuum of space and disappears forever.
So upon us finishing 54th, we had the honor to show up on draft day, which is a large, it's an international thing where everyone gets into a video conference and we talk with all the teams and the professors involved with keeping this going at MIT. So the top couple of teams, or top 24-ish teams, get to draft. So based on the position we held, we managed to clinch a position to actually do the drafting ourselves. So we managed to draft a team from both Berlin, Germany, and Sparta, New Jersey, and we've been working closely with them for the past couple of months, and now we're moving forward to go into the final stage, the alliance stage.
And this is just a picture of us meeting together on the draft day, and we were talking on that laptop with some of the teams around the world, and we drafted our teams at that time.
So obviously, since you have to draft a team from another continent, communicating with Germans is kind of hard. It's a +8 time zone difference. So here we can see we're using a website called Discord to communicate with each other across the world. As you can see, we're trying to negotiate our time zone differences right here. And we have the American team, and we're discussing how we're going to make our new strategy and whether or not we're going to vote on some of the referendums to the overall design of the game.
This is a quick snapshot of the current alliance code. So there's a new element they added in the final stretch to make it a little bit more interesting. If you can see that on the bottom, there's these kind of like white, rectangles there, yeah. And it's kind of like resembling mountains. You have to go down, you have to scan the entire area, and you can't hit them. So what we've done is we've changed our code. We actually push people into the mountains, and they start losing points based off that. We're kind of aggressive in that way. So now the last stretch, we just need to make it the top 14 teams, and then we're going to MIT from there.
Don't tell anybody, it's a secret again.
Yeah, secret again.
Keep in mind, the number 2 team in the world messaged Gekka, and they asked, "You're the only team that hasn't submitted yet. What do you have planned?" Gekka responded with, "Well, ...
So now here we are. December 1st is the final submission day, and we're ready to submit. We're just waiting until the last couple days so we can hide until then. So then afterwards, we may win a trip to MIT based on how we do. If we perform well and make it into the top 14, we'll be able to go to MIT and send our code to space. And that's all we have for you. And I'd like to welcome Bob Getka back up for a closing remark. Oh, first questions, I'm sorry.
Anybody? Go ahead, Steve.
So, and who's the senior? Okay, so what is your plan for after high school?
I'm planning on attending URock for 2 years, get some of my gen eds done, and then go right to Whitewater maybe.
Okay, to study.
Yes, computer science.
Okay, very good.
I am also a senior. I have finished my application for Yale University for early submission, so I'm waiting until December 14th, and they'll have a statement then. And then I have a second choice of UW-Madison, which I've submitted for regular decision.
Very good. Which aligns with the promises of the board as having people college and career ready when they leave our high school. So we appreciate that.
I will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education, which was duly noticed November 21st, 2017 through the posting and notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 1984. And from Edison Middle School, Melvin Garcia. Welcome, Melvin. Melvin, you have family here with you tonight? Okay,
Kind of busy.
just a second, just a second. All right, young man, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, Melvin. I will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education, which was duly noticed November 21st, 2017, through the posting and notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 1984. And from Edison Middle School, Melvin Garcia. Welcome, Melvin. Melvin, you have family here with you tonight? Okay,
Kind of busy.
just a second, just a second. All right, young man, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic.
I will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education, which was duly noticed November 21st, 2017, through the posting and notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 1984. And from Edison Middle School, Melvin Garcia. Welcome, Melvin. Melvin, you have family here with you tonight? Okay,
Kind of busy.
just a second, just a second. All right, young man, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the
I will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Education, which was duly noticed November 21st, 2017, through the posting and notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 1984. And from Edison Middle School, Melvin Garcia. Welcome, Melvin. Melvin, you have family here with you tonight? Okay,
Kind of busy.
just a second, just a second. All right, young man, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, Melvin. Who's your favorite principal? Oh, of course.
All right. Some enthusiasm too. All right, here we go. 1, 2. All right.
Whoa.
Guys, what color your office is painted? He's not supposed to know.
Thank you. Consider approval of November 28th, 2017 Board of Education agenda. Need a motion and
So moved.
Second.
motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes 8-0. Commissioner Ardrey is absent tonight. Mr. Millard, you have a guest today.
Well, yes, I do, man.
This one. There we go. Yes, I do. Buck Buchanan from the Highway Department is going to give us some safety tips for the winter. Or should I say the upcoming winter?
Thank you. There's a lot you know right now that I'm a product of Craig, class of 78. So. I'm still here. I work for the Rock County Highway Department, and Jim asked me to come down and give you a little speech on safety around plow trucks. I couldn't get the truck in the door. I really wanted to show you what we could have, but so anyhow, just some of the safety things that you can think about this winter when you're out driving, and you can warn other people. Number one, and these are things that I went through with the guys that I work with. This isn't out of any book or anything. This is what they told me the last several days. Number one, stay off your cell phones. Avoid other distractions like the radio, food, newspaper, makeup, or your unruly kids. It just takes a second, and something can happen. Number two would be stay away from the plow trucks. There are laws on this too, as far as tailgating and giving the trucks room to do their job. Plow trucks can stop, turn, back up, change lanes without any warning. So you just don't tailgate.
And so we're building out a scope and a sequence to this work. And this, as much as Mr. Getka and other teachers in the district are quick to give credit to everybody else, without great teachers, this kind of learning possibility doesn't happen for our kids. And so, as I introduced to you folks just recently, the Superintendent Promise Keeper Award, I'd like to give Bob that recognition tonight. So, Bob, thank you very much. All right, two other quick things. Speaking of wait a minute. Let's do that again. Speaking of recognition, I know that this was in a report that was sent to you, but I'd just like to point out, I think it's important that we share some recognition that the district received just about 2 weeks ago now, right before the holiday week. The school district of Janesville received a recognition at the commitment level from the Wisconsin Forward Alliance. There were only 8 organizations in the state that received this recognition. It's based on Baldrige criteria. Of those 8 recipients, 6 were private sector businesses and only 2 were school districts. And so we were one of 2 school districts in the state to receive this recognition. Governor Tommy Thompson started this award over 20 years ago. He was actually there that evening to recognize the 8 recipients, and so it was a great celebration in Madison, and the district really shined brightly that night. And it's really reflective of the kinds of programming we just saw tonight and a million other great things that are going on around the district. It's a really rigorous, robust process that we participated in to get this recognition. And then the final part of my report tonight is to just give you a little insight into some work that's just at the very early stages of beginning around the issue of our literacy goal, specifically that 3rd grade reading goal. You know that we set robust targets for all of our goals, and one of the things that we know is that most kids actually make about a year's worth of reading progress while they're at school. And while we can continue to fine tune and improve the programming that we offer to our kids, getting from that kind of 50% range where we are right now with kids able to read independently by 3rd grade to that 90% target in 5 years from now is going to take a much larger effort than what goes on just at school. And so tomorrow afternoon, actually, Allison has a team of people coming together, and it will be the first step of pulling together what will become, we hope, a community-wide initiative around literacy from birth to 3 and during the summer times for kids. Because without the community getting serious about this goal, we'll never achieve that 90% goal that we're after. And so we're going to continue to work, obviously, internally in the district, but we're also going to facilitate and provide the leadership to rally the community in a very systemic way around literacy. And so I'm really excited about the work that Allison's doing in that regard, and we will keep you posted as that unfolds. But at the end of the day, it's going to have to be all hands on deck. It's going to have to be our service clubs, our parent-teacher organizations, our hospitals. I don't want to start naming people because then I start forgetting people, but right, just like everybody in the community is going to have to be part of our churches. I mean, everybody's going to have to be part of this work for us to scale up and accomplish this goal. It's the right goal because, frankly, accomplishing all of our other promises largely hinges on us getting this piece right. And so we're paying big attention to this early on. So more to come on that as time passes. And thank you to Allison and the Learning and Innovation team for the work they're doing. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Personnel Policy and Curriculum Committee report.
Thank you. So we had a good meeting. We talked a lot about the new grading policy, and we got an update on how that's working out. And we learned that there's been some surveying done about where we are with it and how people are responding to it, things we need to learn how, to do better. We talked about the emphasis on professional development and how the students and staff are getting better with the transition. It seems to be progressing. Talked about as well as ways that we can improve the program, including getting students to take more advantage of the kind of support that they're getting, and trying to get them to work harder on the formative assessments. And that's pretty much it. Is there anything else I missed out of that you can think of? No? So our next meeting is December 8th at 4:45. And we're going to be...
8th or 18th?
Did I say, what did I say? Beg your pardon, 18th. 18th, thank you for catching that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Next item, presentation of the 2018-2019 staffing plan assumptions.
Good evening. Just as you know, these don't need to be approved, but we do want to let you know what we use for our Bible. As you may or may not recall, it's what you have in your packet is the front page, the first page to what we use for our staffing plan. So this is what we created last year. So when we present this to you in March, you've seen this before. But essentially our staffing assumptions follow board policy. Again, we maintain our pupil-teacher ratios per the board policy, which is outlined there. We take into account for AGR schools, which used to be SAGE. We also talk about EL staffing, special education staffing, as well as the guidelines for minutes for special area teachers with traveling and or not. And then we also talk about how we, in there, I'm not going to read it all to you as you can see it, but we discuss within that how we come about different high school courses and the enrollment in the high school and middle school courses as well. So it's all outlined in the document. I'm just here to see if you have any questions.
Go ahead, Steve.
Scott, last year we had a lot of debate and discussion over the TPR in the middle school and what should the TPR be at grade 4 and 5. Mm-hmm. At what point in the calendar will we revisit those conversations so that we don't have that at the end of the conversation rather than the beginning of the conversation?
So we discussed that at one of our, not last PPC, but the PPC prior to that, and discussed the whole TPR piece. And as we talked about that, we kind of came to the rationale that we will look at the TPR maintaining itself this way. At this point, the board at any point can look at changing the policy. And that's what it would take necessarily to go to lower levels.
Okay. Have you ever considered, I think this procedure using this model for staffing has been in place for probably 25 years, I would guess. Have we ever looked at some type of a flexible programming? I don't know, last year, one of the issues in the middle school was they really only needed 1.5 FTEs to cover some areas that were of need. Mm-hmm. We didn't necessarily need to change the TPR. We could have done that through just allocating another 1.5 people. And that deviates from the board policy, but I'm just wondering through conversations if there's some other ways we could look at flexibility with staffing.
Sure. We haven't done that in terms of, we haven't deviated from our assumptions. Typically what we will do though is, as you notice the contingency funds in there, we always ask for 3. And that is now $222,000 total dollars. And so we use that money based on flexibility, but it has to fall within the guidelines of the policies.
Sure. One of the reasons for the question is when Commissioner Millard and I and Commissioner Ardrey visited one of the middle schools, we saw what they would like to be as a robotics lab, STEM lab, which may need a staff person or half a staff person in addition at that school. That doesn't follow any staffing plans. That follows an initiative plan necessarily. Correct. So yeah, it's a different way of looking at things. This is I know this is good and it's very black and white and it helps us building our budgets, but I guess I'm suggesting we look at a little more flexibility with some of the approaches.
Sure. And just, yep, you bring up a good point, Commissioner Huth. This is the enrollment-driven staffing plan, so this is based on students within our schools. Then what you're talking about, the other piece is the other kind of staffing plan that we create the list as we created the budget priorities.
Sure.
As part of that.
I just know that past experiences, if we have a program that draws students, it becomes an enrollment-driven staffing plan. For instance, if you had a STEM academy at a middle school that brings students from other areas, even outside the state, that can generate enrollment, which impacts this.
Absolutely.
I think about the music program, the theater program we have at Parker, which has generated at least 2 that I know of students coming to our district from other districts outside of Rock County. So they inadvertently drive this.
Yes, they do.
So I'm looking at really wide peripheral vision as to just creative ways we can maybe meet some of those promises for those kids.
Great. Yeah, and I can always come back next year and ask you for some more money for more staff if we need to. So that works.
Anyone else? Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Item 5.2, consider approval of a recommendation for post-June 2018 OPEB adjustments.
Must be my night to talk.
Okay.
With a cold. So we don't have a recommendation this evening. We have been researching. Finance wants to look at the work that Tina Johnson and her staff have done, and they want to talk about that at the next finance meeting. And I know Commissioner Dobson has sent a proposal forward for an agenda item for our December 14th meeting, and I asked Ben to just give a brief on what he's looking for us to talk about on the 14th, so the whole board would be aware of that.
All right, perfect. Thanks. So I had put a request in so we can at least open the discussion about the sick time and it directly being correlated with the, I guess, OPEB. Because even from the beginning, when I first kind of learned about it, I was concerned that sick time being tied to it may not really go along with our health and wellness thoughts here, that some people may be hesitant to take time off, take that mental health day, whatever it may be. And I know the last thing I want is for people when they're calling in sick to worry about how it's going to affect them in retirement. So I thought it'd be important for us, at least at the benefits committee, to start to discuss other options that may not directly relate the sick time to OPEB and how that could maybe be more of a benefit for those working in the district. So that's kind of where I was going with that, is just at least having that discussion, and then that could maybe lead into other things as well. So, and also possibly I did send some questions out to revisit the sick time policy to kind of see how antiquated that policy is, if there's some adjustments to that as well that may make it more intriguing for people to take time off. So, yeah.
Thanks, Ben. So the committee's really taking a slow and steady approach to make sure that if we make adjustments, that we make prudent adjustments that positively impacts recruitment and retention of staff, but also is fiscally responsible. And that's why Commissioner Ardrey asked that we look at it from the finance side. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to benefits and how it fits into the whole equation of compensation for employees. As we know, health insurance costs continue to go up, which is part of the benefit package. So we won't have a recommendation, it doesn't sound like, in December, because our next meeting is December 14th. Finance meets on December 19th. But I think we're still well within the timeline, so we'd want, if we were going to make any changes, we could make those decisions in January. And that would be prudent for notifying staff. Is that right, Mr. Garner? Okay. So that concludes that report, unless other committee members have comments. Thank you.
Okay. Summary of board requests. I have a new request, and it has to do with the elimination or possible elimination of the educator expense deduction. Used to, one time there was a deduction for educators as much as $250, but evidently in the current budget proposal is elimination of that.
In the House, they're talking about eliminating that deduction in the tax reform plan, and in the Senate, they're talking about doubling it. And so they're going to have to come to some understanding, but it's about, the resolution is about sending maybe a message to our representatives about how we feel about keeping that deduction and even raising it.
Tax deduction.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll review that and get some advice what to do with that. All right. We've reached the end of our agenda. We are adjourned.